If you'd asked me 10 years ago where I saw myself by now, I would have said New York, trading numbers in a high-rise office, maybe catching late-night sushi with co-workers I barely knew, not running a jam company out of a half-forgotten shop in Philadelphia. But life, as it tends to, had other plans. Carter's Gourmet had been bleeding out quietly for years, a slow, miserable death that no one in my family wanted to admit. My father, ever the optimist, kept saying a miracle would come. My mother? She looked too tired to believe in anything anymore. It was me, just me. One afternoon, I walked into that dusty little store, the overhead lights flickering like even the building was ready to give up. I remember the silence most of all, a silence that sounded a lot like failure. No customers, no orders, just debt, thick and suffocating. I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. During the day, I manned the counter, smiling until my cheeks hurt. At night, I drowned in spreadsheets, tearing apart every line item. I cut expenses ruthlessly, shut down the second location despite my father's desperate protests, mortgaged my condo, sold everything I didn't need, including a watch I once thought I'd die without. I wasn't just trying to save a store, I was trying to save my family's legacy, even if they didn't seem willing to fight for it themselves, and somehow, against every odd, it worked. The day a food blogger stumbled into our store and raved about our raspberry preserves was the day everything changed. One viral post, and orders flooded in like a dam had broken. I didn't waste the moment. I launched an e-commerce platform within months, pushing us beyond the city limits and into homes across the country. In just a few years, Carter's Gourmet wasn't just alive, it was thriving. We landed on the shelves of 200 stores nationwide. We racked up over 200,000 subscribers to our monthly tasting boxes. And then came the biggest milestone yet. A $7.5 million investment from Wellington Capital, led by the formidable Isabella Wright herself. There we were, toasting under crystal chandeliers, celebrating the impossible. I should have been floating on air, but something heavy lingered at the edge of that night, just out of sight. Something waiting to knock me off the mountain I'd fought so hard to climb. And it would come from the last place I ever expected. The celebration was supposed to be the crowning moment of everything I'd built. At Hawthorne's, one of Philadelphia's most upscale restaurants, the room buzzed with energy. Investors, executives, family, everyone raising their glasses to Carter's Gourmet and, by extension, to me. Isabella Wright, sharp-eyed and magnetic even across the candlelight, lifted her glass. "To Evan Carter," she said, her voice cutting through the chatter like a bell. "The man who proved that vision and grit can turn a corner shop into a national brand." Applause echoed off the marble walls. I smiled, nodded, made the right noises. I should have felt invincible. Instead, when my father leaned in close, voice low but words clear, my stomach twisted into a knot. "You've done incredibly well, son," he said, squeezing my shoulder. "But when Sophie returns next month, we're planning to transition her into the CEO role. She's better suited for the next phase." I blinked. Sophie? The same Sophie who'd spent the past year wandering Europe, occasionally posting business mindset captions from rooftop bars. The same Sophie who hadn't logged a single hour helping me rebuild this company from the ashes. I kept my expression polite, my smile glued in place. "Excuse me," I asked, as calmly as I could. My father's hand tightened slightly, like he could physically force me to accept it. "You're brilliant, Evan. But Sophie has an MBA from Wharton. She's seen the world. She has the broader vision we need now. Broader vision." I almost laughed. While Sophie was sipping wine on the Amalfi Coast, I was selling jam to tourists at farmers markets, pulling double shifts, risking everything. And now? Now I was supposed to hand her the keys to a kingdom she didn't lift a single damn finger to build. The walls of hawthorns felt like they were closing in. Laughter around me blurred into a hum. Isabella's toast, the clinking of glasses, all of it dulled under the roaring in my ears. I had imagined betrayal would come with shouting, slammed doors, ugly words. Instead, it came dressed up in polished suits and champagne flutes. Right there, under the crystal chandeliers, I realised something crucial. They didn't see Carter's Gourmet as mine. They saw it as the family's. And in their eyes, I had only ever been keeping Sophie's seat warm. Not anymore. If they thought I was going to hand over everything I bled for, they didn't know me at all. And they were about to find out exactly what kind of man they had underestimated. The limousine glided through the cold streets of Philadelphia, but I barely noticed the city lights blurring past. My family's decision played on loop in my mind, over and over, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. They wanted to replace me. After everything. After every risk I took. Every loan I signed. Every night I sat awake wondering if tomorrow would be the day we went under. And they thought I would just step aside. I clenched my phone tighter when a message lit up from my father. Talked to Sophie. She agrees it's time for new leadership. We know you'll understand. Understand? No, I understood perfectly. They didn't see me. They never had. I leaned back against the leather seat, the plan already crystallizing in my mind. It wasn't about throwing a tantrum. It wasn't about begging them to reconsider. No, this was about survival. It was about strategy. And if they wanted a war, I would win it before they even realized the first shot had been fired. Sunday morning, before the sun was even up, I was already at Carter's Gourmet headquarters. The place felt different when it was empty, hollow, almost sacred. The floors still gleamed from last night's cleaning crew. The faint smell of coffee lingered from the break room. I unlocked my office, turned on the lights, and spread 2 thick folders across the desk. The first, a full portfolio proving exactly why I was indispensable. The second, an escape plan if they insisted on handing everything over to Sophie. 2 paths. Only one ending, me in control of my own destiny. I flipped through the first folder, page after page of hard numbers, strategic pivots, customer loyalty surveys, brand growth graphs. Concrete proof that Carter's Gourmet didn't exist because of luck or a family name. It existed because of me. Revenue had soared by 340% under my leadership. We had expanded from a struggling storefront into a nationwide brand, gracing the shelves of over 200 retailers. Subscription numbers were up. Customer retention was higher than ever. Every meaningful metric pointed back to one undeniable fact. Evan Carter had built this company. Not Sophie, not my parents. Me. And then there was the second folder, my insurance policy. If they forced me out, I wouldn't leave empty-handed. I had already spoken discreetly with our top suppliers and key employees, Mason, Hannah, Lucas. 8 out of 10 vendors confirmed they would follow me if I started a new brand. My senior team, unshakably loyal. And Isabella Wright, the lead partner from Wellington Capital, had made it abundantly clear over dinner that their investment was not in the Carter family. It was in me. If I left, Wellington Capital would walk too, and without their funding, Carter's Gourmet would crumble faster than my parents could stage a ribbon-cutting ceremony for Sophie. By 9:00 a.m., I sat across from Isabella and her team in a private conference room downtown. No small talk, no pleasantries, just the cold, sharp edge of reality. I know what's happening, I said, voice steady. And I need to know if I have your backing. Isabella regarded me for a long moment, her perfectly manicured nails tapping lightly against her leather folio. Then she nodded. Let's see it. I laid out the documents, growth reports, customer loyalty analysis, BSS statements, employee commitment letters, proof. Proof that this company lived and breathed through my work, and that removing me would be a catastrophic mistake. Finally, I pushed a blank piece of paper across the table. Bold black letters across the top read, Sophie's contributions to Carter's Gourmet, 2015-2024, below it, an empty page. Isabella smiled slightly, a glimmer of amusement crossing her face. Effective, she said. Another partner from her team, a younger man named Caleb, leaned forward. If your family tries to move forward without you, what's your move? I didn't blink. I slid the second folder across the table. A new brand, a new name, my supplier network, my leadership team, my loyal customers, all ready to follow. Launch timelines, marketing strategies, financial projections, everything they would need to see that I wasn't bluffing. Isabella flipped through it carefully, page by page. At the end, she set the folder down, folded her hands, and said simply, We're with you, Evan. A weight I hadn't realized I was carrying dropped from my chest. We'll make it clear to your family, she continued. Our investment stays with you, and if you go, it goes. Simple, brutal, unmistakable, exactly the kind of leverage I needed. That evening, as the city sank into darkness, I stayed late at headquarters, watching Philadelphia's skyline light up through the window. It was funny. For years I had believed that if I sacrificed enough, my 20s, my career in finance, my health, my relationships, my family, would finally see my worth. I thought hard work alone could rewrite decades of favoritism. That love, or something like it, would eventually weigh heavier than tradition. But now I understood something I should have learned long ago. You can't force people to see you. You can only build something so undeniable they regret ever looking away. Monday morning was coming. And I was ready to fight not just for a company, but for every ounce of respect they had tried to steal from me. This wouldn't be a plea. It wouldn't even be a negotiation. It would be a reckoning. And this time I'd be the one writing the ending. Monday morning, the air at Carter's Gourmet headquarters felt razor sharp. There was no pretending anymore. No small talk in the hallways. No polite smiles. Everyone could feel it. Something was coming. Mason, Hannah, and Lucas were already in my office when I arrived. No summons needed. They just knew. Mason leaned against my desk, arms crossed. You ready? I nodded once. More than ready. At precisely 8:45 a.m., the glass doors to the main conference room swung open. In walked my father, sharp suit, tired eyes, followed by my mother, heels clicking briskly against the marble floor. And then Sophie, her designer coat slung casually over one arm, her expression a perfect mask of smug confidence. She looked at me like she was already measuring for new curtains in my office. I didn't react. I had no interest in theatrics. I was here to end this cleanly, ruthlessly, and without giving them a single crack to exploit. 9:00 a.m. On the dot, Isabella Wright and her team from Wellington Capital arrived. The tension in the room spiked like a shot of adrenaline. My father moved first, plastering on a businesslike smile. Thank you all for coming. Today we'll be discussing the leadership transition plan to position Carter's Gourmet for its next chapter. Isabella cut him off. Let's get straight to the point, she said, voice cool and commanding. We're here because our firm has serious concerns about the proposed leadership change. You could practically hear the air shift. My mother stiffened, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her blazer. Sophie glanced around, her certainty faltering for the first time. My father cleared his throat. With all due respect, Sophie has an MBA from Wharton. She's travelled extensively, bringing a global perspective. Evan's done incredible work, but we feel it's time for fresh vision. I clicked my laptop open and connected to the projector. Without a word, I pulled up the first slide. Total hours worked at Carter's Gourmet over 8 years. Evan Carter, 17,000 plus Sophie Carter, 26 gasps whispered through the room. Next slide. Key strategic contributions, launch of e-commerce platform, Evan supplier partnerships, Evan retail expansion, Evan under Sophie's column. Blank. Dead silence. I turned to Sophie directly, my voice steady, almost gentle. Can you name a single deal you closed, a single initiative you led, a single Saturday you spent behind the counter when we couldn't afford enough staff? Her face flushed red, mouth opening and closing without sound. I let the question hang there, heavy and unforgiving. My father tried to recover, speaking quickly. That's not entirely fair. Sophie brings. Based on what? Isabella interrupted sharply. Not track record, not experience, not contribution, just bloodline. I clicked to the final slide, customer survey results. 70% of our customers chose Carter's Gourmet because of the brand story, the scrappy revival led by a risk-taking entrepreneur. 25% cited product quality and innovation. Only 5% had ever heard of the Carter name before I rebuilt it. I closed the laptop, folded my hands on the table, and looked directly at my parents. You didn't invest in me. Wellington Capital didn't invest in our family name. They invested in the work, in the results, in the reality we built, not the fantasy you're trying to hand over to someone who never earned it. My father's face was pale. My mother's lips were pressed into a thin, furious line. Sophie looked like she wanted to vanish through the floor. Then Isabella spoke, calm but firm. If Evan is removed as CEO, Wellington Capital withdraws our entire $7.5 million investment immediately. Furthermore, we reserve the right to notify our retail partners that leadership stability has been compromised, which may impact future shelf space. Boom. An atomic bomb, politely wrapped in legalese. I leaned forward slightly. And if you choose to proceed anyway, I added, voice like ice, I already have plans in motion. A new brand, a loyal team, 80% of our suppliers ready to jump ship. Within 6 months, Carter's Gourmet would be a shell of itself. Sophie's mouth twisted. You're threatening to destroy your own family's company, she hissed. No, I said, standing up. You destroyed it the moment you tried to erase the person who built it. My father buried his face in his hands. For the first time, he looked small. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, my mother spoke. Fine, she said stiffly. Evan remains CEO. No apology, no acknowledgement, just pure, bitter capitulation. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply nodded, as if the outcome had been inevitable from the start. Isabella stood, gathering her files. Wise choice, she said briskly. We look forward to continued growth under Evan's leadership. The meeting dissolved in a flurry of silence and sidelong glances. As I walked out of the conference room, Mason clapped me lightly on the back. We did it, he murmured. No, I did it. But I wasn't naive enough to think this was over. The damage had been done. I had seen my family's true faces, the ones that cared more about appearances than sacrifices, more about control than love. There was no going back to the way things were. And honestly, for the first time, I didn't want to. 6 months later, Carter's Gourmet was thriving like never before. Revenue had shot up another 50%, blasting past every projection we had set. Our subscriber base had ballooned to over 300,000 loyal customers, and our products were now proudly stocked in over 350 retail stores nationwide, And me? I was finally running the company, not just in title, but in reality, with no shadows lurking at the edges of my decisions. At first, I thought victory would feel different, sweeter, maybe, more satisfying. Instead, what I felt was something quieter, deeper, freedom. The funny thing about fighting so hard for validation is that once you realize you never needed it, everything changes. I had spent years, decades, if I was honest, chasing my parents' approval like a dog begging for scraps. Every success, every sleepless night, every win. I thought it would finally make them see me. But the truth was simple. They had seen me. They just never chose me, and they never would. After that meeting, things between us shifted into something clinical, professional. We discussed business when absolutely necessary, short clipped calls, terse emails. No more family dinners, no more pretending. My mother couldn't hide the disappointment etched into her face whenever she sat across from me in quarterly board meetings. My father stopped offering unsolicited advice, quietly stepping back, as if ashamed but too cowardly to say it out loud. And Sophie? Sophie hated me now with a pure, bitter intensity that I could almost respect. Forced into the role of Vice President of Business Development, she flailed. Every project she pitched collapsed under the weight of her own incompetence. Buzzwords weren't strategy. Instagram quotes didn't build empires. The first time she stood up in a leadership meeting and fumbled a basic operations report, I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Reality was doing the work for me. Each failure chipped away at the illusion my parents had fought so hard to protect. And every time Sophie stumbled, every time a project crashed and burned, it only proved what I had known all along. I wasn't the fallback plan. I was the blueprint. One night, long after the office had emptied out, I stood alone by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city stretch out below. Philadelphia's lights pulsed gently, like a living thing breathing in the dark. Mason found me there, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. He set one on the table beside me, leaning against the window frame with a casual familiarity that reminded me I wasn't alone in this, after all. "You ever think it'd turn out like this?" he asked, tilting his head toward the glittering skyline. I smiled faintly. "No," I said, "not like this." There was a long beat of silence between us, the good kind. The kind built from wars fought side by side. "So," Mason said, nudging my shoulder lightly, "you finally feel like you made it?" I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the warmth anchor me to the moment. "I don't need to make it anymore," I said. "I just needed to stop asking for permission." Mason nodded, understanding more in that single gesture than most people would in 1,000 words. For the first time, I wasn't running towards something. I wasn't running away from anything either. I was simply standing on ground I had built with my own 2 hands. The company kept growing. Faster, stronger, steadier. We launched a new artisan line, landed a major distribution deal on the West Coast, built a brand presence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with giants and hold its ground. And through it all, I stayed focused, not on proving anything to anyone, not on revenge, on building something real, something better. Sophie eventually requested a sabbatical, the polite corporate term for retreating with whatever dignity you could salvage. She booked a flight to Bali, talking vaguely about personal growth. I didn't stop her. Some things aren't worth chasing. Some people aren't worth saving. My father sent a few emails over the months, short updates peppered with awkward attempts to reconnect. My mother didn't bother. And me? I didn't chase them either. For the first time in my life, I wasn't tied to the desperate need for their approval. I wasn't sitting at their dinner table, starving for a crumb of acknowledgement. I had built my own table, and it was full. Sometimes late at night, I still thought about it, about the version of me who had walked into that little storefront all those years ago, terrified and furious and stupidly hopeful. He deserved better. So I gave him better. Not with their permission, not with their blessing, on my own terms. I lifted my coffee mug to the glass, watching the reflection of the city shimmer back at me. No toast, no applause, no validation from people who never believed in me anyway. Just a simple, silent vow to myself. I didn't win because they gave me a seat at the table. I won because I built a whole new one, and I made damn sure I never needed theirs again. Story 2. You ever get that gut feeling that something's off, but you try to shove it down because you want to believe things are still good? That was me for way too long. My name's Daniel. I'm 33 now, but this story starts a few years back when I was married to Brooke. We met at a barbecue through mutual friends. You know, one of those days where everything feels light and easy and the beer's just cold enough. Brooke was stunning, tall, quick-witted, ambitious as hell. I was the rougher around the edges guy who somehow caught her attention. We clicked hard. Fast forward through a year and a half of intense dating, we tied the knot. Life was good. Great even. We got a nice apartment downtown, started stacking cash for a house someday. We were that couple that looked solid from the outside, or so I thought. Looking back now, the signs were there. Tiny fractures you don't notice until the whole damn structure collapses. Brooke's career started taking off. Late nights at the office, team outings that became more and more frequent. I had a travelling role too, but I always made it home for long weekends. I figured it was just the grind, the sacrifices you make when you're both chasing something bigger. The first real gut punch came one random Thursday night. Brooke rolled in late, again, tossing a quick apology over her shoulder about grabbing drinks with her team. I didn't say anything, didn't want to seem clingy or paranoid. But when she ducked into the shower, I went out to grab the groceries she left in the car. And that's when I found it. A pink lace bra half tucked under the passenger seat. It was hers, no doubt about that. I knew the brand, the style, hell. I'd bought her one just like it for her birthday. But why the hell was it under her seat? Brooke wasn't the type to just toss her clothes around, especially in her car. My stomach dropped. Hard. I wanted to confront her right there. I really did. But something inside me, some stubborn little voice said, wait, watch. So I did. The next few weeks were hell. I played the good husband, while in my head, every weird late night, every extra shift, every random networking event suddenly had a new, sick flavour. I tried one last time to fix things the only way I knew how: dinner, candles, flowers. I pulled out all the stops one Friday night. Brooke came home late, as usual. Gave the whole sheepish sorry babe, I have to go out for a co-worker's birthday thing routine. I nodded. Watched her vanish into the bedroom to shower and change. She didn't even notice the setup in the dining room. And that's when I knew. I threw everything, the wine, the dinner, the stupid bouquet, straight into the trash. While she was getting ready, I slipped my work phone into the back seat of her car. It was synced to my personal laptop so I could track its location. No lies tonight, no excuses. Brooke bounced out of the apartment, dressed to kill, kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong, and headed out. I waited 5 minutes, then grabbed my laptop. 20 minutes later, she was at a trendy bar downtown, a place she swore she only hit up for team nights. I parked across the street, heart hammering so loud I could barely think. felt like a damn private investigator or a crazy ex. An hour crawled by, and then I saw her, walking out of the bar, arm in arm with some dude in a suit, laughing at something he said like she didn't have a husband waiting at home. I didn't need a PhD in body language to get it. The way he touched the small of her back, the way she leaned into him. Then they kissed, casual as hell, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I followed them, I know to a hotel not even 10 minutes away. When they disappeared inside, hand in hand, something inside me just shut off. It was like the air went out of my lungs. I sat there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Eventually, I just started driving. Anywhere but home. I ended up at a dive bar 30 miles out of town. The kind of place with sticky floors and a jukebox stuck on old country hits. I must have looked like death warmed over because the bartender, a woman about my mum's age, slid me a whiskey on the house and said, "Bad day, honey." Yeah, you could say that. I met a guy there, Ray. Just some regular dude who somehow said all the right things without even trying. Told me he'd been through the same crap years ago, that I had a choice now, let it break me or let it build me. Funny how strangers can hit you harder with the truth than anyone you actually know. Before I left, Ray gave me an offer. Said he had a small trailer on his property up near the hills. It wasn't much, but it was peaceful. If I ever needed a place to crash, I was welcome. I didn't commit to anything right then. I just nodded, tucked the idea away. But the second I walked back into our apartment that night, and Brooke looked up at me with her fake smile, chirping about how fun her night was. Yeah, I knew I was gone. I wasn't going to scream or fight. I wasn't going to beg. I was just going to leave, quietly, completely. And she wasn't even going to see it coming. The days after that felt like moving through molasses. I didn't blow up her phone, didn't slam doors, didn't even act different. I just started moving, silently. While Brooke was out working late, I started packing my stuff, little by little. One duffel bag of clothes here, a box of old books there. I'd take a few things every day and load them into the back of my truck. Nothing she'd notice missing right away. I wasn't taking anything that belonged to both of us. No furniture, no art, no wedding photos. Just my things, my life. The weirdest part? Brooke actually started acting nicer during this time. Like, suddenly she was home earlier, asking if I wanted to grab dinner, laughing at my stupid jokes again. Almost like she could feel me slipping away, but didn't know why. Too little, too damn late. Ray and I kept in touch. He sent me photos of the trailer, fixed up the plumbing, cleaned it out. Even built a little deck outside with a grill. It ain't fancy, he said, but it'll be yours. It sounded like heaven to me. Brooke dropped the next bomb about a week later, said she had a work trip coming up. Corporate retreat up in the mountains. 5 days. Team building, networking. All that crap, I smiled, told her to have fun. Inside, I was counting down the minutes. The night before she left, we barely spoke. I kissed her goodnight out of habit, and I hated how automatic it felt. Like muscle memory from a life I didn't belong to anymore. The second she pulled out of the driveway the next morning, I got to work. It took less than 4 hours to clear out everything that was mine. Laptops, old journals, camping gear, clothes, my mum's photo albums, all of it went into the truck. The apartment looked weird when I finished. Empty in places. Lopsided, like the life we built together had a limp now. I sat down at the kitchen table one last time, pulled out my wedding ring and set it in the middle. Scribbled a note on a scrap of paper, I hope it was worth it. That's all. No rants, no accusations, no begging for answers I didn't need. Then I walked out the door. I didn't look back. The drive up to Ray's property felt like crossing into another world. Rolling hills, the sharp smell of pine trees, the kind of silence you can feel in your bones. He had the trailer set up at the edge of his land, with a little path that led up into the hills behind it. When I pulled up, Ray was there waiting, beer in hand, grinning like an old friend you hadn't seen in years. "Welcome home, brother," he said. I can't even explain the weight that lifted off me that night. Sitting outside on the deck, fire pit crackling, cold beer in my hand, the stars smeared across the sky. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I slept like a corpse. Brooke's messages started rolling in a few days later. At first, casual stuff. "Hey babe, just landed. Hope you're having a good night." I didn't answer. Then they got more frantic. "Where are you? Why aren't you picking up? Please call me." Still ignored her. By the time she got back from her retreat, I was long gone. I shut off the old phone, made a new email, even left my shared bank accounts clean, didn't touch a dime that wasn't mine. A clean break. Her mum tried calling me too, which was laughable considering she barely tolerated me during our marriage. Brooke must have been panicking. It took about a week for the real confession to come in. A long, rambling text about how she was so sorry, that she made a mistake, that nothing really happened, just feelings that got confused because of stress and work pressure. Yeah, okay. "People don't end up in hotel rooms by accident, Brooke." I didn't answer. I didn't even want an answer. Life on Ray's land suited me more than I expected. I started waking up with the sun, hiking the trails, fixing little things around the trailer. I even found a local trail running group and started joining their Sunday morning meetups. Turns out, living simple has a way of bleeding the poison out of you. I wasn't lonely either. Ray introduced me to his circle, salt of the earth people. They didn't ask questions I didn't want to answer. They just invited me to barbecues, fishing trips, backyard poker games. And slowly, the ache that used to sit in my chest 24/7 started to ease up. Brooke kept trying though. Emails, messages from random numbers, a letter even, handwritten, begging me to call her. I didn't respond to a single damn thing. It's not that I wanted her to suffer. I just didn't care anymore. She made her bed, and I was finally sleeping peacefully in mine. About 6 months into my new life, things were good, real good. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. But I woke up every day clear-headed, heart unburdened. I worked remote gigs from the trailer, jogged the trails, spent weekends helping Ray fix fences or haul firewood. Simpler days. Honest ones. Then, one morning, it happened. I was grabbing a coffee at this little spot in town, minding my business, when I heard it. "Daniel?" I turned around, and there she was. Brooke. Same long hair, same too bright smile, but something about her was different, smaller maybe, or maybe it was just the way I saw her now. She crossed the street like she half expected a hug. I stayed rooted to the spot, hands at my sides. She stopped a few feet away when she realized I wasn't moving toward her. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice soft, almost breaking. I thought about saying no, just turning and walking away. But something, maybe closure, maybe curiosity, made me nod once. We found a bench down the block, sat there like two strangers who once had a whole life together. Brooke started talking first. A mess of words at first. How sorry she was. How she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. How everything had fallen apart after I left. Turns out Karma hadn't wasted time. Word got out at her company about her little work retreat romance. The guy she cheated with? Yeah, he was engaged. His fiancée found out, blew it all up. He got transferred to some dead-end department. Brooke ended up resigning to avoid the fallout. She cried when she said it. Real tears, messy and unpretty. I just sat there. I didn't yell, didn't gloat, didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she asked it, "Is there any chance we could try again?" I let out a slow breath, looked at her, really looked at her. "No," I said, steady as stone. "There's not." Her face crumpled like I'd hit her, but I didn't take it back. "You didn't just cheat on me, Brooke," I said. "You killed everything we built, everything we were. That doesn't come back with a few sorries." She started to say something else, but I stood up. "I'm not angry anymore," I said, "but I'm done. I've moved on. You should too." And I meant it. She watched me walk away, and I didn't look back. Not once. The emails kept coming for a little while after that. She offered to meet up again, offered to move closer to where I lived, offered to start fresh somewhere new. I ignored them all. Finally, one last email came through. She was moving to another state for a job, and she just wanted to say goodbye. No drama, no begging. Just goodbye. And that was that. Funny thing about heartbreak, when you're in it, it feels like it'll never end, like it's stitched into your bones. But given enough time, enough distance, you start to realize it was just a chapter, not the whole story. I stayed in the trailer, found peace in the silence, built a life where no one could shake my foundation again, made new friends, found joy in small things, morning runs, campfires under the stars, a cold beer on a hot day. And yeah, eventually I met someone new, not looking, not chasing, just two people crossing paths at the right time. Her name's Mia. Met her when I stopped to help her change a flat tire on one of the back roads. She's funny, tough, way smarter than me. And when she laughs, it feels like the world gets a little lighter. We're not rushing anything, no grand plans yet. But I'll tell you this, when I look at her, I don't see a second chance at love. I see a first chance at peace, and I'm not about to mess that up. If there's anything I've learned through all this, it's simple. You can survive the worst day of your life. You can rebuild from rock bottom, and you sure as hell don't owe your heart to someone who smashed it once already. Protect your peace, fight for your happiness, and when the past comes knocking, it's okay to leave the door closed. Some things are better left behind. Story 3. I don't think my parents ever liked me. Maybe liked is the wrong word. Tolerated feels more accurate. Growing up, it was obvious. I was the afterthought. My parents, Mark and Lisa, adored my sister Brianna. She was the golden child, the centre of every conversation, every family gathering, every photo. I, on the other hand, was more like the unwanted guest who somehow got an invite to the party. It didn't help that when I was 4, doctors found out I had a hormone deficiency, lower testosterone than normal. Instead of supporting me, my parents decided the fix was to toughen me up. How? By making me Brianna's permanent punching bag. I still remember Christmas when I was 12. Brianna was 15, and we both asked for bikes. She got a brand new violet cruiser with shiny tassels, a basket, the works. Me? I got a pink t-shirt that said Brianna's little bro in glitter letters. I wish I was kidding. Their idea was simple. Humiliate me until I magically manned up. Instead, they just crushed any confidence I had left. Over the years, the line between tough love and plain favoritism blurred into nothingness. Brianna could fail an exam, and they'd throw a party with banners congratulating her on her B- triumph. Meanwhile, I'd bring home straight A's, and they'd ask why they weren't A+s, followed by grounding me and trashing my room for my laziness. Honestly, nothing they did could surprise me after a while. When I got into a decent college on a partial scholarship, I thought they'd at least pretend to be proud. Instead, Mark called me a major disappointment for not getting a full ride. Meanwhile, Brianna decided, college was too restrictive and took a gap year that morphed into 5 years of bar hopping and finding herself. My parents? They celebrated her courage with a MacBook Pro and a big party. If you're wondering how I didn't just snap, well, the moment I could legally escape, I did. Moved out. Took 2 part-time jobs to support myself while cramming for classes. Couldn't even afford the bus ticket home for Thanksgiving one year, and my dad told me, "Guess your priorities are elsewhere now." Nice. Real warm, Dad. Family events never got better. Even when I graduated, they showed up late, insulted my degree, and spent the whole ceremony gushing over Brianna's latest business idea, a boutique she never actually opened. Still, like an idiot, I kept trying. I called. I visited. I sent birthday gifts. Brianna? She treated me like a cautionary tale. If I got a promotion, she had a huge opportunity coming up. If I dated someone, she was suddenly madly in love with some new guy. It was exhausting. One day, after getting promoted to senior analyst, a big deal for me, I called her, excited. "Hey, Brie." "I just got promoted," I said, practically bouncing in place. Long pause. Then, "That's cool. Anyway, I just got approached by a new startup. Probably a 6-figure offer, way more than you're making." There was no startup. She just couldn't stand not being the center of attention. When I finally landed my dream job after years of grinding, I made the rookie mistake of bringing it up at dinner. I barely got the words, "I got my dream job," out before my mum interrupted with, "Did you hear about Brianna? She met a brilliant entrepreneur. They're going to be huge." That entrepreneur was Chase, a guy selling paper supplies for a mid-sized firm. But to my parents, he was basically Steve Jobs. When they married, my parents threw a wedding fit for royalty, spared no expense. Meanwhile, I was still paying off my student loans, alone. I didn't think anything could break their pattern, until Emily showed up. I met her at one of Brianna's over-the-top housewarming parties. Bri and Chase moved every year, each time into a bigger house my parents helped finance. Emily was standing by the bookshelf, glass of wine in hand, looking about as comfortable as a cat in a swimming pool. Shoulder-length brown hair, deep green eyes, a smile that could undo gravity. And something in her expression told me she wasn't drinking the Brianna Kool-Aid either. "Not much of a party person?" she asked, her voice warm but slightly amused. "Not much of a Brianna's World person," I blurted before I could stop myself. Instead of being offended, she laughed, genuinely. "Ah," she said, "you must be her brother, the one who actually has a job." I think I fell a little bit in love right there. We ended up talking all night, terrible sci-fi movies, classic books, travel dreams. By the end of the evening, I had her number scribbled on a napkin and a date set for the next Saturday. Cue the beginning of the best and worst chapter of my life. Emily and I clicked instantly. Smart, funny, thoughtful. She made me feel seen in a way nobody in my family ever had. But of course, my parents couldn't just let me be happy. When they met Emily, my mum wrinkled her nose and said, "Well, she's very cultured. Surprising she's interested in someone so local." My dad? Women like that usually realise what they're missing after a while. Brianna suddenly became way too interested in my life, texting randomly, asking weird questions about Emily's family, career, future plans. At first, I was just grateful she cared. Looking back, I should have seen it. I should have seen all of it. About a year after Emily and I started dating, we moved in together. It wasn't some fancy high-rise, just a cozy one-bedroom with a cracked balcony and a kitchen straight out of the 90s, but it was ours. We painted the walls ourselves. Built IKEA furniture mostly wrong, but whatever. We were broke half the time, eating takeout on a hand-me-down couch, but it didn't matter. I was happy. For the first time in my life, I wasn't competing with anyone. I wasn't less than. I was enough. One night, sitting on that sagging couch with Emily tucked under my arm, she said, "I never thought I'd find someone who felt like home." I almost cried. I proposed exactly 2 years later, on a rainy Tuesday, in our tiny kitchen over burnt lasagna. Nothing flashy, no audience, just us. The ring was simple, an emerald stone, her favourite, because diamonds felt too expected. She said yes before I even finished asking. We didn't want a huge wedding, just something small, real. Maybe a backyard with fairy lights. But my parents, oh no. Lisa wanted a gala. Mark wanted control. You need a proper ceremony, my mother huffed. Brianna had 300 guests, my dad pointed out. Like weddings were a competition too. Even Brianna wasn't subtle about it, grabbing Emily's hand, inspecting the ring like she was a jeweler. Cute, simple, definitely suits you guys. Translation cheap, underwhelming, forgettable. I brushed it off. I was too in love to care. The months after our engagement felt like a blur. Work got busy. Emily picked up extra hours. Date nights turned into quick dinners in between meetings. When I suggested a weekend getaway, she hesitated. "I'm swamped," she said, avoiding my eyes. "I get it," I said, even though I didn't. Looking back, the signs were there. The late-night texts she brushed off as work emergencies. The sudden interest in Brianna and Chase's lives. The weird, almost defensive way she talked about Chase. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. About 6 months before the wedding, Emily started getting sick. Nausea, exhaustion, mood swings. Part of me lit up. Maybe we were going to be parents. One morning, I found her curled over the toilet. I knelt beside her, heart pounding. "Should we get a test?" I asked, trying to hide my hope. She went pale. "No, it's just stress." She shoved past me, brushing her teeth with a vengeance, but the symptoms didn't go away. She skipped wine at dinner, fell asleep before movies. I started leaving prenatal brochures around, like a clueless idiot. "You'll be the best mum," I told her once. She just smiled weakly and said nothing. One night, after a particularly long day, Emily sat me down at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes, hands trembling. "I'm pregnant," she said, voice cracking. I froze. "I'm pregnant," she repeated. "But it's not yours." It felt like the floor cracked open beneath me. "Whose is it?" I whispered, even though I already knew. "Chase," she choked out. "Brianna's Chase." My world tilted sideways. 3 months. 3 months of lies. 3 months of laughing at family dinners, kissing me goodnight, talking about our future, while sneaking around with my sister's husband. Emily sobbed, spilling the whole story. It started at my parents' anniversary party. The night I thought she'd gone out for fresh air. Yeah, she went to meet him behind the building. Chase told her I wasn't ambitious enough, that she deserved better, that she could have everything she dreamed of with him, and she believed it. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she cried. "It was just. I felt seen, wanted." And then it snowballed. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Every memory, every laugh, every kiss, every plan felt tainted, rotten from the inside out. I kicked her out that night, packed her things while she begged and cried. "I'll end it with Chase," she screamed. "I'll fix this, please." I didn't even look at her. "If you loved me," I said, voice shaking, "you wouldn't have needed to be fixed." She left, sobbing, pregnant. and somehow still clinging to hope that I'd forgive her. But the nightmare wasn't over. I called Chase, because apparently I hate myself, he answered on the second ring. Sounded almost bored. Man, it's not what you think, he started. I hung up, drove straight to their house, fists clenched so tight my nails cut into my palms. I needed answers, closure, something. What I got instead? A full-blown family meeting, because Mark and Lisa, they already knew. And spoiler alert, they sided with Chase. When I stormed into their house that night, I wasn't ready. Not ready for the way they looked at me like I was the problem. Not ready for the betrayal. Not just from Emily and Chase, but from my own blood. Mark and Lisa were already there, sitting stiffly on the couch like they were bracing for a hurricane. Chase was there too, pretending to look sorry, but not even bothering to stand up when I walked in. "You're being dramatic," my dad said before I could even open my mouth. "Dramatic," I laughed. The sound came out cracked and wild. "Your son-in-law knocks up my fiancé and I'm dramatic?" Mum shot me that tight, fake smile she used whenever someone made a scene in public. "We need to think about the baby," she said calmly. "It's not the child's fault." I looked around the room. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be real. "What about Brianna?" I asked. "Does she know? Or are we just going to sweep that under the rug too?" Dad cleared his throat. "Brianna's upset, but she's willing to work through it. Like an adult. Like an adult. Right. Because adults apparently just pretend none of it matters." Chase finally spoke then. "I didn't plan for this," he said, shrugging. "But Emily and we connected. It's real." I stared at him. The audacity. "You connected," I repeated flatly. "With my fiancé. At your in-laws' party." He didn't even blink. "You never understood Emily the way I do." And there it was. The knife, the twist, the smug little smile. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stood there, feeling something inside me snap clean in two. "You know what?" I said. "You can all have each other," Mum gasped. Dad's face twisted in anger. Chase shrugged like he didn't care either way. I turned toward the door. No shouting match, no final dramatic scene. Just done. Done trying. Done begging. Done pretending I mattered to people who clearly didn't care if I lived or died. The next few weeks were brutal. I moved out of the apartment Emily and I shared. She kept calling, texting, emailing. "I miss you. It was a mistake. We can raise the baby together." I blocked her. I had to. Every message felt like reopening a wound. Meanwhile, my parents wouldn't leave me alone either. Voicemails about family unity. Texts about forgiveness and growing up. Apparently, the only problem in their eyes was me, for refusing to play happy families. I went no contact, changed my number, moved across the state to a tiny studio apartment where nobody knew my name. I started therapy because, honestly, I didn't know who I was anymore. My whole life had been spent trying to earn love from people who only loved control, trying to win a game where the rules changed every time I got close. My therapist told me something that stuck. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Mark and Lisa showed me my whole life. Brianna showed me. Chase showed me. Emily showed me. I just didn't want to believe it. 3 months after I disappeared, my parents showed up at my work. "Cornered me in the parking lot like some weird intervention," Lisa cried. Mark yelled. "Chase sent a message through my coworker. We're naming the baby after your dad. You should be honoured to be an uncle." I laughed so hard I almost threw up. Be honoured? To babysit the living proof of betrayal? to smile and pretend I was happy while Chase raised the kid that should have been mine, not a chance. I'm still rebuilding my life, still waking up some mornings wondering if any of it was real, still fighting the urge to blame myself. But I'm getting stronger. I'm learning that family isn't blood. Family is who shows up when you're broken, who stands by you without needing to be asked. And sometimes, family is just you choosing yourself finally without guilt. I don't know what the future looks like. I'm not rushing into relationships. I'm not rushing into forgiveness either. Some wounds need time. Some betrayals don't get patched over with a couple of family dinners and a fake apology. Sometimes walking away is the win. Sometimes surviving is the revenge. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Writing this all out feels like pulling splinters from under my skin. Painful but necessary. I'm not looking back anymore. Not for them. Not for anyone. I chose myself. And for the first time in my life, that's enough.